Former U.S. Representative J.C. Watts served Oklahoma's 4th Congressional District for 8 years, and during that time, Watts was elected to serve as chairman of the Republican Conference. He also served on the House Select Committee on Homeland Security and the House Armed Services Committee. After retiring in 2003, Watts founded a consulting firm. The former politician draws on his experience to help promote diversity and leadership within major corporations. He's also a regular analyst on CNN and national radio shows. And J.C. Watts, it's an honor. I hadn't met you before today, but I've been enjoying the conversation leading into this video.
Well, I see you a lot more than you see me. I'll plug into newsoak.com at least once a day.
Outstanding.
And check in on what you're talking about or what's going on in Oklahoma, and so it's good to be here in this chair and spend some time with you.
Well, I'm not sure this desk is the most comfortable studio desk you've ever sat behind, but we certainly appreciate you being here today. You know, you work with a number of businesses to help to bring diversity to their companies, and you work for a number of years to bring diversity to the Republican Party. I think it's interesting that Oklahoma has had 2 really successful black Republicans, but has so strongly rejected President Obama when they went to vote each November. What's your take on the lack of diversity in the GOP currently?
Well, I think anytime I'm on corporate boards, serve on corporate boards, Fortune, 250 companies,
big companies,
and big companies, and I have a chance from a board perspective to kind of give insight on how you tap into this market, or what I would do to tap into certain market. And I think if you're a business, you say, okay, is there anyone, red, yellow, brown, black, or white, that I don't want buying my product or service? And so at the end of the day, you say no. And so I think diversity is a business. I can make a business case for diversity to say that if I'm selling water, I want you to drink my water in spite of the fact you may be different skin color than me.
But chances are you're thirsty.
That's right. And so it's fascinating that corporate America has gotten it. It's fascinating to me that the faith community has gotten it. I still preach 10 or 12 times a year around the country somewhere, and I go into churches that look like United Nations.
Yeah, what are you seeing in the audience when you're there?
Yeah, and it's red, yellow, brown, black, or white. I belong to a church that's 65% black, 30% white, and 5% other with the black pastor. So now it takes work, but it can be done. And so the Southern Baptist Convention here in Oklahoma, nationally, they have got a big diversity outreach effort to say that every person has a soul, so we should be reaching out to minister to that soul. You heard Roger Goodell over the weekend. I heard him, National Football League commissioner, talking about, you know, diversity in coaching and so forth and so on. And so you don't have, I think the GOP often thinks that somehow or another you have to abandon your old friends to make new friends, or you have to abandon your principles to, if you talk about diversity. I think God made you, gave you your skin color. He gave me my skin color. You can't do anything about it, neither can I.
Sure.
And so if it's something that we can't do anything about, why would not the GOP, or especially on a national level, embrace saying we want all people to embrace lower taxes and more money to buy school clothes and buy groceries and make the house payment and take a family vacation. We want a strong defense to protect ourselves. And we've seen firsthand over the last 10 or 11 years that we live in a very dangerous world. So we're on strong defense to protect ourselves. Oklahoma City understands that, or should understand that better than anybody, because of Tink Air Force Base.
A lot of employees.
A lot of employees, and those employees are contributing to the safety, to the safety of our country and protecting our interest around the world. So diversity is not a bad thing, it's a good thing, and it seems as though the GOP on a national level runs from it, and they don't take the time to establish deeper relationships with non-traditional constituencies.
When I say the name T.W. Shannon, what comes to mind? Because you've known him for a while. He's now the Speaker of the House here, and he's the first black Speaker of the House from Oklahoma, just as you were the first black congressman from Oklahoma, both Republican. T.W. Shannon, what comes to mind when you hear that name?
Young, energetic.
34, right?
34. very thoughtful. Had a chance to spend a lot of time with TW, and he was on my team when he worked with me when I was the congressman for the 4th District of Oklahoma, or here in Oklahoma. And
how was he back then?
You know, we talked a whole lot more about our faith and life than we did about politics or congressional issues. He was very inquisitive.
So you got to know him more on a personal level?
I did.
Who is this guy type thing?
I mean, he was very inquisitive, a good listener, which, you know, Tom Cole pointed out at the Speaker's Ball, talked about his quality to really listen. And I think a lot of times in politics, you listen to respond, you don't listen to hear. And there's a big difference. I kind of honed by listening to hear. Being a parent, you having 5 kids, and
you have your hands full.
Yeah, that's right. And you know, and one of your daughters say, or one of your sons say, you know, Daddy, you didn't hear a word I said. I had an accident, but it wasn't my fault. And I'm thinking, oh, the insurance is going up. And, you know, what are you thinking? But it wasn't my fault. I told you at the outset. But when you listen to respond, usually that's how you react, or you overreact. There's a big difference in listening to hear as opposed to listening to respond. And TW is really, really, really a good listener.
Well, it will be interesting to see as the legislative session gets started today how that unfolds. There's a lot of youth out there, isn't there?
A lot of youth.
Which is good, but also perhaps a lack of experience.
It's good. I do think that, you know, TW is Speaker, 34 years old, but I've had an opportunity over the last 10 years to see him grow, not just spiritually, but politically. And I don't think you get into a post like that. I don't think your colleagues, those that vote for you, I don't think they would vote for you had they not had the confidence at the outset, in spite of the fact that he's the youngest Speaker, 34 in the history of Oklahoma, that he's not extremely qualified. And I would also add one other thought on this diversity, TW Shannon, J.C. Watts. We often think that the case is closed if you elect a TW Shannon in the GOP, or if J.C. Watts is elected on a congressional level. That's about like, you know, to say that we've arrived in terms of diversity and our efforts to establish deeper relationships. Just not so. And I think it's a real injustice to TW Shannon for people to say, oh, the GOP, we've arrived because we have a black speaker. That's about like saying, if you're born in a garage, that your car, it doesn't make your car.
Too much labeling going on.
Too much labeling going on. There's a lot of work, but again, we have to embrace the fact that we have to have deeper relationships with non-traditional constituencies. And I've just not been saying this in the last 2 years. I've been saying this for 20 years.
Something you saw right from the beginning.
I saw at the outset that we should be doing this, and I didn't gain a heart to do outreach or grow relationships through my political career. I did it through athletics and through my work as a youth pastor, as a church staff member.
So perhaps some instinct. That's what you're like, hey, this is the path to success is this way.
No question. And when you consider in November of 2012, Republicans lost with 90% of the demographics. And then my name was kind of floated as an RNC chairman, a candidate for the RNC chairmanship, which I had nothing to do with, but nevertheless it was floated to be chairman of the RNC. And my thought was, and I said this publicly, that if I don't know the chairman of the Republican National Committee, how should I have any confidence that Joe Six-Pack white guy, Joe Six-Pack black guy, Joe Six-Pack Hispanic guy, or Sally Doe, that they would know him? It all starts with relationships. I don't care if it's building a business, if it's growing a church, growing a youth department, it starts with relationships. And their response was, when the RNC chair was asked about that, and some of the committee folks at the RNC, they said, their response was, we had one black guy as chairman, we've been there, done that, And I said, it's not about my skin color, it's about someone sitting in that chair that says, hey, these are my values, these are my principles, how can I help you accomplish what you want to accomplish in life? It's about relationships. And we've been fortunate to have pretty good athletic programs, in the state of Oklahoma on the college level at OU and OSU. And you know how Gundy and Stoops, you know how they do it? Establishing relationships with those recruits and their families and their parents. That's the key.
You're talking college athletics. Let me skip to this, the future of the BCS, because you've done some lobbying in Washington with the BCS. What's the future of the BCS?
Well, I see the BCS being strong. I think they probably waited 2 or 3 years too late to go to the +1 system, which I saw 4 years ago, that as I was advising them on how to navigate the bureaucracy of Washington and helping them prepare for hearings and so forth, I could see that it was going to end up beyond the current infrastructure that they're going to, I guess, in 2014, I believe. Yeah, they're going to the top 8 teams or top 4 teams, and then they'll have one final game. That's basically the +1 system. And I saw that coming 3 or 4 years ago, and they just kind of closed a circle on it about a year ago. And so it's a complicated system because you've got so many folks involved in it: college presidents, athletic directors, different conferences. You've got the bowls, and it's not just a matter, contrary to popular belief, it's not just a matter of saying we want a +1 or we want a playoff system. There's a lot of different people. These bowl games are businesses.
I was about to say it's political and there's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. And the Rose Bowl, they basically said they would never go to a playoff system simply because the Rose Bowl creates about as of about 4 or 5 years ago, created about $200 million per year to the economy there in Pasadena, Southern California. So you've got bowls, you've got a lot of different pieces to the puzzle, and it's not just as simple as saying we want a playoff system. And then if you do have a playoff system, it's just not that simple. So, but anyway, I have kind of helped them navigate Washington, and the +1, they were probably 3 or 4 years too late to the party on that, but they are at the party now.
We're talking with J.C. Watts here in our OPUBCO Studios. We're taping this on a Monday morning, and we just saw the Super Bowl last night. Let me ask you one final question. We'll get you out of here on this. About concussions. President Obama said if he had a son, he might be hesitant to let his son play football. Your thoughts on that?
As a parent, I can appreciate that. I mean, I've had kids to play football. I've got a son that's currently active in football. I think on a college and professional level, and even on a high school level, I think the system, all the interested parties are much smarter today on how to deal with concussions. They're much smarter on how to deal with a lot of different things. You have black ball players that come in every year that may have the sickle cell trait. We're much smarter today on how to deal with that. Oklahoma University, and I suspect Oklahoma State University as well, although they're black ball players, today they test them every year for the sickle cell trait when they take physicals. I never got tested for that. I don't have it. It's in my family, but I don't have it. That's just because they're smarter today. They know how to ask the right questions. They know how to deal with the medical profession differently, or the medical profession is much smarter
Perhaps
about it.
Perhaps they're seeing signs or symptoms after a big hit.
You bet. You can have some guy with sickle cell. You can have some guy that could be an All-American linebacker. And chances are, if he's got the sickle cell trait, he's not going to be able to play 5 or 6 straight down. So you may play him 4 and pull him out for 2. So you know how to manage it.
Smarter use of that player.
Smarter, you bet. So I think concussions, it's the same thing. I think we're much smarter about that. Surely there's some things that we probably missed 30 years ago. that we're smarter about it today. So I can understand the president saying that as a player, I would have the same concerns, but just being as close to it as I've been, playing and now having kids coming through the system and grandkids these days, I can say with you know, pretty good degree of confidence that I'm thankful that we are where we are today as opposed to where we were 30 years ago.
Made some progress.
We've made a lot of progress.
J.C. Watts, I've enjoyed the conversation. It's been great to meet you. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you very much.